Will the Nigerian Senate obey the court and reinstate Senator Natasha Akpabio? Has her fight dealt a major blow to Senate President Akpabio and the federal government? What comes next for Natasha, for Akpabio, and for integrity of the National Assembly? Welcome to Unbiased with Anita, where Nigeria's politics is stripped of spin and exposed for what it really is. Today, we tackle a burning constitutional and political drama. The Federal High Court in Abuja, led by Justice Binta Nyako, has done what many Nigerians doubted the judiciary could do in these politically charged times. Declared a 6-month suspension of Senator Natasha Akpabio as illegal, excessive, and unconstitutional. Here is why the ruling is monumental. The Senate Standing Orders and Legislative House's Powers and Privileges Act did not set a clear limit on how long a Senate could suspend a senator. The court ruled this ambiguity cannot be used to sideline a representative for over 180 days, practically an entire legislative year. The judge made it clear a lawmaker can be sanctioned, but not to the point where their constituency is left voiceless. This is a clear check on legislative overreach. It says lawmakers are not kings. Their powers end where the people's rights begin. This is the big question, and the answer isn't so simple. Legally, the Senate has no choice. Court orders in Nigeria are binding even on the legislature. If the Senate refuses to obey, it risks a constitutional crisis, a contempt charge, a political fallout, a national embarrassment.
Thank you, Nigerians, for your support, your love, your prayers.
Just a second.
But politically, this is Nigeria. The Senate, under Akpabio's leadership, could try to delay implementation, citing appeals or processes, and force Natasha to apologize or meet political conditions before reinstating her. Or worse, challenge the judgment in a higher court to buy time till her suspension period lapses. If Akpabio goes that route, it confirms fears that the Senate under his leadership prioritizes power over rule of law. Yes. And it's significant. Here's what Natasha has achieved. She publicly challenged the Senate president and came out with a quart victory. She exposed the fragility of Akpabio's leadership, showing that power cannot always silence dissent. She became a symbol of democratic resistance, especially for women in male-dominated political space. But the road ahead is not smooth. The court found her guilty of contempt for publishing a satirical apology during the case and fined her 5 million naira. She's been ordered to apologize to the court in 2 national newspapers and on Facebook, a movement to humble her in the public eye.
I think it doesn't matter. I think the judiciary should sit down and look at itself and ask itself, why has it become the willing tool, the willing oppressive tool of corrupt politicians who think that they are more than other Nigerians and they can do whatever it is that they need to do? This is not justice. The court has the right to say the same Senate that refused to obey the courts when they were going to suspend her is the same Senate she's given the power, or the judgment is given power to, for them to recall her. How? When we have a justice, a court that has the capacity to be able to say that the injustice that has been done, that should not be sustained, that she should go back and resume.
This is a reminder that even if you are right, the process matters. Natasha's boldness inspires many, but her contempt charge gives Akpabio and his scam some leverage to paint her as reckless. Still, her legal win outweighs her contempt sanctions. It shows that Akpabio cannot just suspend dissenting voices at will, even if they make him uncomfortable. Senate President Godswill Akpabio isn't finished. He still has control over Senate's proceedings and agenda. He can frustrate or delay her return quietly. Political allies who may push back against the judgment, encouraging an appeal, committee powers, he may seek to isolate her from key committees or reduce her legislative influence. But if Akpabio tries to openly defy the court, he risks further alienating the public, drawing criticism from civil society, and embarrassing the Tinubu administration, which already faces credibility challenges on rule of law. Here is what must happen to restore public trust. Immediate restatement of Senator Natasha. Any delay would be seen as petty and lawless. Reviewing of the Senate standing rules to clarify and define suspension limits. This should never happen again. Strengthening of internal conflict resolution mechanisms within the Senate to prevent a public embarrassment. Agenda commitment to equity and minority rights, and this committee would look at Natasha's prosecution and the silencing of women in politics. This should also spark a national debate. Should one man, Senate President, wield this much unchecked power over elected lawmakers?
The court has held in a very erudite decision that the Senate has the right to suspend its members. The Senate also has the right. A member can only speak from the allocated seats, and that the derogative as to which seat belongs to any particular member is at the discretion of the Senate President, and no member can speak from a seat not so allocated to him or her.
Very well then. So how do you react to the judgment?
Yeah, we are awaiting the full text of the judgment. When we get the full text of the judgment, we'll react accordingly.
Senator Natasha has two possible futures: a rising star in Nigerian politics, emboldened by this legal victory, standing as a rallying point for reformers, women and opposition voices. Her courage could cement her legacy as a national figure, or if isolated within the Senate and harassed by Akpabio's loyalists, she may be reduced to a symbolic figure cut off from real legislative power. Much depends on whether civil society and Nigerians rally behind her, whether PDP or opposition blocs embraces her fully, and whether she remains strategic and doesn't fall into future traps. Natasha's battle is not just about one senator, it's about how power is used or abused. In Nigeria's National Assembly, this moment should teach the Senate a lesson. You are not above the people, you serve them. And for Akpabio, this is a warning. Power that silences others will eventually silence itself. And this is Unbiased with Enito, where no one is too powerful for the truth. I remain yours truly, Oluwatobi Enito, saying bye for now.